This was a heavy talk. I think I have to give, well, I guess even warning. So I'd heard this talk in a very similar form already. What is it now? Almost a year ago, in Susalu, and to me, it actually, well, definitely took me, or for many months to follow. That affected me quite a bit, and I was very much concerned about it and thought about the consequences. I think my perspective now has slightly shifted, or slightly become, or see at least different perspectives on the issue, and I think that's also why we thought it would be important to basically immediately discuss, in a way, this talk on this panel. And again, share different perspectives. So I think Elad doesn't need an introduction anymore. So now,
please convince me I'm wrong, though.
No. I mean, we will go. Or, I mean, we will discuss that. So, I think also Ilya just gave his talk, so probably also doesn't need an introduction, but still, is working on NEAR, and that's his his largest project right now. But of course, has also very, very famous background in the AI research. You've been, well, on this famous, now very famous paper, one of the authors that, led to, I mean, I think always many things lead to breakthroughs, but this is still cited as one of the most influential papers for current LLMs. And we have Andreas, who's also now working on something quite different, Fileverse, but also has an academic background in AI, and also specifically looking into risks. So I want to start with roughly summarizing your argument, at least giving it a shot, and then seeing at what points we either agree or disagree. So I would say your argument goes, we are quite close to have agents. You many times use the word parasitic species. I myself am actually, currently we're still trying to write this blog post, A New Form of Life, or Agents as a New Form of Life. So I do think, I absolutely follow that logic, that agents can become its own independent form of life. So just roughly, what would this mean? So that means they are actors that do stuff for themselves. So I think that is something. They are able to reproduce. They are able to evolve. I would say those are probably the three things necessary to be a form of life. Again, also to share that this is really not that far out. We are also with others in Gnosis, Tonolas, and many other projects. We are right now setting up agents. And right now what they do is trade on prediction markets. But to do that, they already need to get knowledge about the real world. They need to understand it. What does understand mean? But they need to, effectively, be able to make good predictions about what's happening. And now the important part comes, by doing so, they can earn money. And that money they can hold on a substrate, that is the blockchain, where no one can potentially take it away from them. there are like technicalities, questions of private keys, and can they kind of secure this private key? But
so you're the baddies.
before we go into the but just to try to make the argument, okay, there are agents and they will quite likely be or can be considered a form of life, and then again the argument further goes. Blockchains are a necessary substrate for them. So or kind of my way of phrasing it would be to say, if you just run on a regular computer, you cannot be considered a form of life because you too much depend on this computer. If someone shuts this computer down, you're dead. But a blockchain itself has so little agency. It doesn't make decisions. It's kind of so neutral that it allows agency to develop on that substrate. And of course, well, projects like NEAR and Internet Computer are also kind of pushing the boundary of how much computation you can actually do on blockchains. I mean, obviously on Ethereum, the amount of computation you can literally do on chain is completely neglectable. But yeah, you're also making the point kind of that this computation will, or I think you're using the term blockchain slightly broader, I guess. Okay, so we constructed the argument that there will be a new form of life, and now the question is, first maybe we should start to ask the question, are you following this argument that there will be new forms of life kind of enabled by blockchain? Maybe, Ilya, you start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like kind of a spectrum that I look at, and I think like there will be kind of full agency systems, right? Which like, yeah, maybe instead of saying, I mean, that's why I like Web3 instead of blockchain, because yeah, like it's kind of peer-to-peer economic system, right? Mm-hmm. And so you can imagine a peer-to-peer economic system that has like an agency itself. And actually, last NearCon introduced this idea of AI president, which is indeed like a reinforcement learning agent that is modeling the world and making decisions and has, you know, a pocket of money to pay people to actually do work, to continue optimizing its value function. And the idea there, though, you have some set of token holders which are kind of, you know, have veto power and a way to provide input to this model, pretty much both in the form of changing value function as well as literally just, hey, do not do this, or here's some more training data to, you know, fine-tune your core decision-making model. So I think
but maybe to immediately intercept there, so just for the sake of argument, yeah, you would probably agree you can take away that veto power or that token holdership, or.
So I mean, that's interesting because if you assume it doesn't have kind of the quote-unquote token holders, right? Then now you have like somebody's operating the hardware, somebody is operating like the networking, like all of the pieces, and I mean we can keep going down as like, okay, well it went and bought all of the hardware, right? Like yeah. There's a conjecture somewhere, but like at least at the current stage we have a legal entities or individual people who are part of the system, and they are either way like stakeholders in the system. So even if
who's running the NEAR blockchain?
The validators.
So exactly. So I guess the argument goes that connection between hardware, physical hardware, and the computational task is pretty much this, or there's an abstraction layer that where it doesn't matter where the physical hardware is, but you kind of get
No, it doesn't matter, but they have technical governance over the system, right? To extent they are the overseeing body of the system, and I mean they have stake as well, so they like both economical and technical, they are the governance. So my point is like at this current stage, the way this kind of let's just call them decentralized computational network, not blockchains, structure, there is a human input, right, that is kind of governing the system one way or another. Now, to be clear, like I'm on board with selective censorship and like a governance system that actually maintains such systems that has human input. I think you can continue going down this route and assume, okay, well, let's imagine have an economic model that's driven by AI that then goes and starts buying out the validators, right? And so, like, I mean, there's an interesting progression there that we see, but this goes into then what is the economic function of this? And I think in general, this whole very interesting thought kind of process is like, we do need to look at it from an economic perspective, right? Like what is a value function, economic function that aligns everyone to work on something? Because we do have actually millions of people working together toward singular function, but yeah.
I would say before we go deeper into that direction, I would bring you in and kind of again ask the general question more. Do you agree with the premise of that, a new form of life in a way is born and that it uses Web3 in a broad sense as a substrate?
No. So I'll make some enemies here. I'm quite conscious of that. But it seems that a big premise in the discussion that we have today is a sort of analogy to human cognition that we're projecting onto artificial agents. We're lucky enough to have 80 years of research on what's the difference between human agency, artificial agency. Now we have a new type of artificial agency with non-deterministic outputs, etc. But the scenarios that are described here assume a lot about those types of agents, what they can do, and their capabilities. Mainly, the main one that I want to point out is planning capabilities. Everything that you guys described assumes a capacity to plan, a capacity of having a world model that is approximately correct or representative of what is happening materially, and acting on it and following through. And we know from research today that the planning capabilities, even of our best models, of the latest ChatGPT model, are quasi-inexistent. I'll just name one research that came out a few months ago. In artificial intelligence, we've had maybe 60 years of planning tasks to see how much AI agent can actually follow through on an idea, on a plan, executing things, leveraging other agents, human agents, etc. And it turns out that even with basic models and games like Blockworks, where put the right blocks in the good order, the performance of the best ChatGPT model is at 30% compared to 100% for humans doing the same tasks. If in those, and I'll stop with that, if in that same planning task you obfuscate the references to what kind of blocks you need to move around or the names of the blocks, the performance in planning capabilities of those models drops to 3%. What does that tell us? It tells us that those models are doing at best approximate retrieval with no planning capability, and extrapolating that there will be a degeneration of material impact on the world is something that I have a hard time accepting, although I accept, just to finish on a good note, I accept that those agents can have material impact on the world, and blockchain technology and peer-to-peer networks like IPFS, and this is something we're doing a lot of work on, enables those agents to be much more powerful and materially impact the world.
Can I?
Absolutely.
You can hear me, right? Yeah. Okay, so I 100% agree with what you just said about the current world. they're terrible at planning. I think Martin might disagree, actually, so we had this debate yesterday. I meet a lot of people that think, this is a common debate I have with people. I'm like, the thing can't plan. It can't think strategically. And people are like, no, it's amazing. I think it's make-believe, the Wizard of Oz. I think it can plan somewhat, very short memory and so on, because it's kind of the average. ChatGPT, when you ask it for strategic, to plan it strategically, it will give you the average answer of a Reddit user because that's the data it was trained on. And AI is really good, or LLMs are really good at finding hay in haystack, but not needle in haystack. So it won't find the perfect strategy or the good strategy. It will find the average strategy that the person on Reddit, which is its world model, language model, would give. However, that's for right now, and we are working, everyone is working so hard on reinforcement learning and control theory and other approaches. So I think we are going to, that's the most laggard part of progress, but we will get there. And there's one more thing that you kind of started mentioning, which is we don't know if the thing is conscious, if it wants, we don't know how artificial intelligences will behave. And maybe they won't behave like it. We want to kill each other and we want to survive. Maybe it won't want to survive. So I'll just pin a couple ideas. There's Darwinist pressures that I think will operate to this system. There's a great TED lecture about teams, genes, memes, and teams that I'll link on the Twitter. And I think that a lot of these AI creatures are going to be subject to Darwinist selection pressures that will apply to them. And therefore, I model them in my head roughly like humans make decisions, but maybe more rational. So I think these will behave like humans, and I think they will be as good at strategy as humans, but are not yet, thankfully. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't be here.
So I don't agree with that they will behave like humans because, I mean, that is a huge conjecture given their completely different structure, right? Like the fact, like human cannot just copy itself, AI model can copy itself, right? So there's like a completely different kind of manifestations either way. But I do agree with the, like, I mean, AlphaGo is a great example of indeed being able to plan and kind of approximate, you know, all the future combinations of states and like estimate what are the options. You can imagine, you know, having like lots of roll-ups of the world state and estimating like what are the better evaluation, right? Like the LLMs is better estimator than predictor, indeed, and it cannot kind of roll out a lot of the like unlikely states very well. But if you have a like policy rollout, right, you can do that, and then you can use the estimator LLM to like, okay, which of the states is better when you're actually picking and choosing, right? I'm not even saying like that we haven't trained them on this kind of tasks.
We have a few more topics, so I want to move on, but still I want to give one comment on the planning capabilities, because that is actually something we are exploring in our agent work right now. So we used to have those agents, prediction market agents that were somewhat pre-programmed to say, okay, you first need to gather information online, and then you need to kind of create a research report, and then you kind of need to come up with a prediction, and then and so on. But now we also did an alternative version where we didn't do any of that planning or any of that hard-coded. So we just said, here is a list of functions that you can do without any, and basically just describing the functions as in text what this function is doing, and what the input and the output parameters are, and that's it. And then we said, make money, or go and do something interesting, or whatever. And it turned out that, in my view, it did reasonably well. So it kind of, it exactly said, yeah, I first need to do this, and then I need to do that, and so on. And if I combine that essentially this this knowledge, this planning knowledge that can be that can be accumulated, or that an agent can then see whether that strategy worked, and then kind of synthesize that strategy and kind of spawn new agents already with that strategy as a pre-configuration, essentially. Yeah, then to me, I think there is a chance that this will evolve into something that is self-evolving and increasing, or is essentially increasing its planning capabilities while it goes through its generations. And of course, it can do it very fast. I want to bring up a slide about perspective on risk, so maybe also for the audience. I personally found it helpful to think about, to try to think about it in a quite structured way. So I just leave it a little bit for the viewers.
I'll post it on my Twitter as well.
Yeah, so that is the way I filled it out personally. This chart, but yeah, leaving it for the audience. So I think one topic I want to go into is, in your talk, you mainly describe this one large entity or chapula, or whatever. Kind of this one large dominant agent. But I think there is a good chance that there will be many, but potentially in a different way, and potentially in such a way that they keep each other in balance. And I think one perspective is to look at companies. So if you want, you can look at companies today, so whatever, Google and Apple, and you could say those are already superintelligence. So those are, in a way, those are agents. I mean, they do stuff, a company does stuff. They are more capable than any human alone. And they, I mean, the first kind of thing is to try to survive and kind of try to accumulate resources. But so far it worked out pretty decent, I would say. So companies overall produced largely, I would say, good outcomes for humans. So maybe, how do you see that perspective?
Yeah, so I kind of addressed these points in the talk, but just as throwaways. So it's not singular. I think there will be many AI. There's attacker-defender asymmetry, which means that if one of them decides they want to kill all of us, like they can. If I want to kill you, no one's going to be able to stop me before the fact. So anyone in the world that has a singular goal to kill you is able to. Sorry.
Sure.
We live with this. So we can't stop each other. Corporations are very inefficient. They are constructed by many people that don't play along. Middle management is pervasive. So corporations are much weaker than 100 of people working with each other in concert. This is why startups succeed, because they start from scratch as a small team that does stuff, rather than a big corporation that does nothing. You can see that the Manhattan Project came up in the talk, but the Manhattan Project is like maybe the most concentrated scientific endeavor of people who are incentive aligned and managed to build, by the way, world-destroying technology because they thought it's really important and then regretted it after, and we got to the world that we live in, where we almost killed ourselves, thank God for Arkhipov, many times over. And so I think there will be many AIs, and they will not balance each other out because they each get too much power individually, and they can't watch over each other, is my prediction here.
Maybe Ilya, so I think you agree there will be
Yeah, I think that there's kind of few aspects, right? One is, I mean, there's AI as a self, like the organism itself, right? And I like to look at it from the individual, like community perspective, and the fact that like as individuals, we have a huge motivation to create a tool for ourselves, right? And like a lot of the, AI has been more about improving our own intelligence. So there's like actually back in like, I don't know, 13, I wrote this augmented intelligence versus artificial intelligence, right? Because we actually want to make ourselves more powerful, kind of more intelligent, be able to do more. And so I think like first kind of my point will be that, and this is why we call it user-owned AI, for example, or not what we're trying to build is that we want individuals to be in control, and in turn, AI models and kind of AI capabilities to power and protect them and be aligned with your kind of internal interests. And again, remember, these models, at the end, you are designing the value function, right? Whoever kind of builds it, launches, et cetera. And so, yeah, there can be like models that will have a value function explicitly to, that has negative effect, but that's why we do need to have kind of individual community level, country level capabilities as well, who are actually focused on their well-being and are protecting and pushing back against it, right? In a way similar how, your individual freedom stops where my individual freedom starts, and same on community level and city level and country level at every level. So that's kind of the, I would say, like first, fundamental piece. The other fundamental piece is assuming, let's say, we do have an artificial agent that is running and is coordinating a lot of people. Its kind of value function, because it's coordinating a lot of people, has something to do with success of those people as well, because otherwise these people will not be participating in this. And so imagining that then this model decides to kill all those people seems very non-economical, right? It's not flowing one from another. And so you can imagine having different models trying to kind of attack each other for resources, et cetera, which is our current world, sadly, where people do that. But at least from perspective of, kind of looking from economics perspective, right? And in general, the systems are all about economics. What is the value function that kind of, I'm going to plan, destruction of Earth, but, I am right now coordinating a bunch of people. To me, that seems like a very kind of unclear, why would that be economical for this model?
And Andreas, how do you see it? So do you think, I think you don't think there will be one large AI that is, but do you think there will be many AIs that keep each other in power, or do you even say, no, they won't even be that, we don't even reach that stage?
Yeah, so definitely we won't be all watched over by machines of loving grace. I think we, at most, will have each individually our own AI agent, very useful, run them locally, synthesize knowledge, summarize knowledge, use systems that are rule-based, that are too complicated for you to leverage, but an AI with the proper API integrations can do. Amazing. But a lot of the next consequences or capabilities or scenarios that we're talking about assume so much more about the capabilities of the agents that we have today. And really, I would love to hear it from you guys. Is there anything from the results we have today in AI research that allows you to say that, okay, we're going to get to that next stage where they're much more powerful? And I just want to make a quick analogy, which is from this professor at the University of Princeton, I think Arvin something, who makes the analogy with the airline industry. In the 1960s, the rate of improvement in the speed of airplanes exponential. And so Pan American started selling tickets to the moon because they were like, okay, if it continues like that for the next 15 years, we can get to the moon in a few minutes and come back and you can do your little trips over there. 100,000 people bought tickets to the moon by the 70s until it plateaued. I see us arriving at this plateau already with the architecture that my honorable colleague has produced, and with the mental model that Richard Sutton kind of mystified the whole generation on, that put enough compute, enough data, something is going to happen. Everything will be computationally reducible to something that you can kind of interact with and produce useful things about. We realize that, okay, language is computationally reducible, and we can do a lot of useful stuff from that, derive stuff from that, but all the other things we're mentioning are scale beyond.
Yeah.
So I think that's an extremely important perspective to just say we might be wrong here on that side, that AI will have that dramatic progress. Still want to, for a minute, entertain the thought that it will have this dramatic progress, and kind of come back to the question of to what extent is it possible that different AI systems will keep each other in power, in balance? So you mentioned a few times this idea of attacker-defender asymmetry. So the counter-argument would say everyone has their perfect AI agent. They're personalized on their kind of. Maybe we kind of even merge in a way with that. With our personal AI agent, and we are essentially one agent as a. So, yeah, you said it. Well, not creating one god, creating many gods.
Yeah, it's instead of, I mean, in general, as a humanity, right? Every individual, instead of wanting for us to create one single god, right, which is kind of this idea of having one model that controls, like, coordinates and controls everyone. The reality is we all want to become God, right? Like we want all to augment our own intelligence, or we want communities to have our kind of our own system that is propels our own needs, right? And we see this with blockchain, right? Instead of having one blockchain, we have lots of blockchains, right? And in a way, they already kind of behave like this and trying to, interact with each other, sometimes hostile, sometimes coordinated, and
Sure.
Can I suggest a thought experiment? Imagine there is 1,000 scientists that work together, that are super in agreement, and somehow they're forced to be super in agreement, that decided they want to kill all humans. And suppose there are many, many other groups of 1,000 scientists, each working separately, and they know that someone out there is trying to kill all humans, and they're trying to stop, but they don't know how, and they're trying to stop it. And all of these people are working separately in secret, and no one knows they exist.
But why are they working separately? Like if they know, like, hey, we need to coordinate to stop it. But I'm just. They'll
okay,
like.
You know what?
It's
a million. Okay, they all coordinate. There's a million people together trying to protect humanity, and there's 1,000 very motivated scientists working in secret to kill it.
Okay,
who wins?
Okay, but I think the analogy would go, or the story, or kind of the counter story would go: every person has a million people working for them to just protect that person, and that has every person has that. So every person.
And my point is, like, they will coordinate together when the value align, which is like, for example, preserving humanity. Now everybody's personal agent will coordinate together to protect them, right?
Even if a trillion agents, even if all humans together work to protect humanity, and if 1,000 well-motivated people want to destroy humanity, I think they'll succeed. Maybe I'm wrong. That's my mental model of the world. Scientists are amazing, and attacker-defender symmetry is very strong.
Again, I think the argument is that that there is at least a path that every person individually becomes so much stronger because, they now have this 1,000 or 1,000,000 scientists working for them. So everyone has this super intelligence that is working for them.
Yeah, the gap is like quadratic at least, if not exponential. We can do the formulas. We can do the game theory of this probably. Can I add a couple things?
Okay.
Sorry. Just two things. First of all, whenever you say computer scientists can't do something, it's been wrong. Every single time. Like, learned computer science. I grew up when neural networks were supposed to be not working and you shouldn't even try. So when people tell me we're going to build reinforcement learning and smart strategic computers, I believe them. And second, I meet 3 founders a week that say they're building smart strategic humans, and they're very smart founders.
Okay, I want to raise money as well. I'm going to sell anything to anyone that's willing to hear, but
this is
scientifically, we've had for 2,500 years a method, induction, abduction, deduction, that helps us make sense of the world, reason better, not fall into biases. And here I hear really aspirations or dreams that are not grounded in much indication.
But like in 2016, you would say Vinograd, schemas are not solvable, right? And we're like few years later, and like I would say actually in 2017, I thought we're an exponential ride and everything will be like, that's why we started Near AI. And yeah, I was wrong. It took like 6 years instead of 1 year. But I mean, I agree that like at this point, yes, it's probably not going to be solved tomorrow. Like we're not going to have magic planning system tomorrow. But like you can imagine that some number of years and given especially how much money is invested in this, it's not impossible. Like it's clearly not impossible to do planning, right? We can do it.
We are running out of time, so I want to ask one last question, and that is, what event would need to happen or what thing would you need to observe that you would dramatically change your view? And that would probably be for you to well, be less concerned, and for you to be concerned, and for you not 100% sure, but let's start with
solving climate change, successful massive coordination. We solved the ozone layer hole. We haven't decided. We managed to save the world from nuclear weapons, partly by luck. If we manage to actually coordinate as a species successfully, I would change P-Doom to be almost zero. We have not managed that, and I think crypto does have a lot to contribute there, as do other digital people. Sadly, they're all working on better monetization and ad networks and scamming and gaming and whatever.
So what would need to happen that you would start to say, this is a huge risk, we need
Worrying
to
about AI?
Yeah.
I worry about AI today. I think that we're all fooling ourselves into not taking care of the material impact that AI is having on the environment, on social inequalities, structural inequalities. There is so much to worry already about. There are people that are not getting government welfare. There are people that can't get access to credit insurance. There are people that, all that because of there are some recommender systems or other AI systems that are affecting their life. So I'm already worried. I think we should all worry about the practical things that are in front of us. For the scenarios that you're describing, I think I'll start worrying when there's a robot at home that guesses what I want to eat today, and they come and serve it to me. And I want to see a lot of coordination and follow through and planning in order to be able to say, okay, we have something that is artificial agency resembling much more human agency. But it's a category, it's a completely different category of complex problems compared to, yeah.
Cool, thank you. I think we have very little time left, but I was just opening up for for questions.
I mean, I think for me, on the risk side, it's two things. One is it's not about me changing opinion. It's like we need to work on solving this. Like I think like the way I look at it is not like all those risks exist. The centralized risk exists, which I talked about. The decentralized risk exists. You know, the inequalities completely exist. Like all of this exists, and they all like some percentages. And we really need to lean in on solving coordination problems, empowering each individual, making sure that people are enabled to have access to resources and on equal part, not being kind of challenged. So I think like it's less about like how to change my opinion. It's more how do we actually coordinate to solve these problems and use this technology that we're building to do that.
Thank you very much. We have. Well, okay. I think we are out of time, but let's do 2 questions. Yeah, here.
All right, so my question is about the best argument. First, I'm pretty much with Elad with all his concerns, but the best argument against it that I've heard, and I'd like to see you counter, is whether this has to be a step function, and it's not something that is going to evolve so gradually that the coordination of humanity against it will come with these things evolving slowly and we seeing them.
I hope. I very much hope. I hope I'm not with me. I don't like people who agree with it. This is very scary. It can evolve. The problem is, so the crypto problem is we're creating this substrate, and once you create something, it's very hard to put the genie back in the bottle, and a censorship-resistant layer tends to stay moving and existing. And so what we're creating now, it doesn't matter how slow the AI evolves, what we're creating now will probably persist through it, and if we do privacy-preserving computation, then we won't know it's even there. But I hope you're right.
All right. I see. Then here.
Hello. On a serious note, if you do have very strong reservations against kind of the direction that AI is taking, how do you reconcile that with kind of working in the industry in a way that you're kind of accelerating that progress?
I don't. I'm a computer scientist. I can't tell you that the AI wiping everyone out and then colonizing the universe. The AI is us. Like, they're people as well. They're trained on Reddit. I mean, I don't know if they're great people, but they're people as well. If you watch Battlestar Galactica, it's like this. I want the AI to exist. I want us to birth a new species into life, a species that's made of metal and silicon and can carry itself through the stars much more efficiently than us and is built in our image. We're playing God. How can you? I have an opportunity to play a little bit part of God every day. How can I not take it? And that's what I dedicate my life to. And also, I'm an optimist. I hope it will be fine. I hope we'll survive it and we'll thrive. And AI is going to be amazing when it's here. I think there are lots of risks, but I think as long as they're not existential, we will succeed them and we will make an amazing world with AI together. So I want to be part of that, and that's my life's mission, and that's all I know how to do. But also, there's this guy that built both biological weapons and fertilizer. Indian, I forgot his name, or German, whatever.
Monsanto?
Sorry?
Monsanto?
Oh, I don't remember. But it's the same guy. And it's the same technology. I mean, all of the strong nuclear weapons, nuclear power, oil, fueling, gunpowder, concrete, automation. So all of these things have two. I want to be part of progressing technology, and I'm also hoping that we manage to coordinate to be on the good side of it.
All right. Well, thank you again to all of you, and probably the discussion will continue.
Thank you.